You guys have read the title. Let's just get straight into this. Look, CJ Stroud cost the Houston Texans probably a Super Bowl appearance. And he, to put it quite simply, had the worst performance in a playoff game by a quarterback that I can imagine ever seeing. Four first half interceptions, a pick six. That is the worst pick six you will ever see at this point in the playoffs. This was the biggest game in franchise history. It became even bigger once Bo Nix word got out that he wouldn't play in the AFC Championship, and now it officially becomes the biggest loss in Texans history. And before we even break down the game, I need to start by talking about big picture items. And the reason for that is CJ Stroud did something this game that I didn't think was possible. And what he did was officially start the conversation of CJ Stroud might not be this franchise's starting quarterback. That is not an overreaction. That is not an overstatement. CJ Stroud might not be the guy in Houston. Okay? Because when you really think about it, all the Houston Texans needed was average quarterback play. You could argue that even if CJ Stroud played badly, the Houston Texans could still get the win in New England. All they needed was average quarterbacking from number 7, and he put up the most horrific and horrendous display that I have ever seen an NFL quarterback put up in a playoff game. I mean, this was atrocious. It was absolutely atrocious to the point where we're going to spend the first part of this video talking about other options at the quarterback position than CJ Stroud. And this is a thing that's getting thrown out there a lot. Let me flat out and say I think there's about a 2% chance that this person requests a trade. But to put it quite simply, if Joe Burrow decides that he really does no longer like it in Cincinnati, you absolutely send 3 first-round picks for him and CJ Stroud. You absolutely do it. That is not an exaggeration. You absolutely do it. Of course, you'd have to protect Joe Burrow, but you'll figure that out along the line, hopefully. That's really unlikely to happen. But the next thing that this franchise is going to have to consider doing, this one I think is a lot more realistic. They're going to have to draft a quarterback in the 4th round. If they didn't feel comfortable playing Davis Mills to start the second half, then they obviously need to find another quarterback in this draft that they feel comfortable drafting. Because let me rehash the point. We did not need to see Patrick Mahomes step back there. We didn't need to see Superman Josh Allen. We didn't need to see Drake May back there at the quarterback position. This team has the number 1 defense in the NFL, and I truly believe it is the best defense in the NFL, and I truly believe they played like the best defense in the NFL today. All they needed was competent quarterbacking. They needed a quarterback who, to put it quite frankly, didn't piss himself, because that's what CJ Stroud did. And the issue with this is an overreaction. Oh, you're just, you're thinking this is blowing it out of proportion. We always make fun of the Jacksonville Jaguars for overpaying Trevor Lawrence. Even if CJ Stroud gets Brock Purdy's contract, he has shown you nothing to even compare him to Brock Purdy. With this game, in this moment, given the circumstances, given just what was asked of him to be average, this is horrendous and horrific for CJ Stroud, and it brings up an incredibly difficult conversation and discussion that needs to be had with Nick Caserio and DeMeco Ryans. Because I would rather send 3 firsts for Joe Burrow and give him this defense than overpay CJ Stroud, select 3 first-rounders, and watch CJ Stroud piss himself in the playoffs. I mean, guys, he had the baseball equivalent of the yips in football, where a baseball player just for some reason can't catch a ground ball and can't throw it to first. CJ Stroud was so rattled, and I was wrong thinking that his game against the Steelers would be the worst game he played in the playoffs. CJ Stroud becomes the only quarterback in postseason history to have back-to-back 3+ turnover games in a single postseason. He did that with the number 1 defense in the league. I really have no words to describe this because this is unprecedented. We've seen quarterbacks start off bad and be manageable. Look at Sam Darnold, okay? Sam Darnold was bad to start with the Jets. He has now picked it up ever since Minnesota and now holds the 1 seed with Seattle. All you needed was for CJ Stroud to be like Sam Darnold. Maybe not even this season Sam Darnold, maybe a tick worse. But that was the formula for this team. Make him be like a Bo Nix. Bo Nix had plenty of 3-and-outs, but he was able to make the plays when they mattered. But CJ Stroud, to put it quite simply, did not look like a football player. He did not look like a football player, and he fell apart on the largest stage that this franchise has ever had in the history of this franchise. He fell apart, and he's wasted away a beautiful defensive performance and pissed away the best chance at a Super Bowl appearance that you're probably going to see in years, because we obviously know Bo Nix is out, and then you're in the Super Bowl. And again, this is not an overreaction to say that they need to consider different quarterbacks, because there's probably 30 quarterbacks in the league that if you give them that Texans defense, they don't perform like that. This is no longer a talent thing necessarily, I don't think. This is a completely mental thing that CJ Stroud is going with. Going back to the Sam Darnold comparison, the difference with CJ Stroud is he was actually good in his rookie year. So it's unprecedented to see a quarterback be that good their rookie year and then really fall off. I mean, Jaden Daniels is another comp, but he got injured this year. And Joe Burrow, the league respects. Joe Burrow is a damn good quarterback. It's his surroundings. There is no way that they can extend CJ Stroud and pay him after that performance. Maybe that's a blessing in disguise, because maybe CJ Stroud is just not that guy. The law of averages will tell you that the Texans probably aren't going to get a defense this good next year. And even if they do, there's little to no confidence that CJ Stroud is going to be the guy to take them through the postseason when he had back-to-back games like he did. And absolutely cannot happen. It is absolutely horrific. Like, CJ Stroud is the main talking point here. The other thing about the Joe Burrow situation is if Joe Burrow really wants to get out of Cincinnati, the best landing spot is the Texans. If you are a good quarterback and you are no longer happy with your situation, the Houston Texans are number 1 on your list for places to go. CJ Stroud's still on his rookie deal. They don't have to commit to giving CJ Stroud all this money. They can move the money off of him, take away what should have been his, and go pay Joe Burrow. Go pay a good quarterback that's not there. And again, quarterbacks are hard to find. I understand that. That's why the Joe Burrow thing is the main thing coming to mind. But I'm literally at a loss for words, because it just feels like such a big mental mishap from CJ Stroud. Throwing footballs while you're mid-tackle is absolutely insane. To have the audacity to think you can do that and not simply take the sack is insane. To be missing high on every single pass you throw is insane. To have no pocket awareness, to not be able to run. You had one good run. That's the first time I've seen him run since the concussion. Use your legs. He doesn't use his legs. I truly believe that if CJ Stroud would have had one bad drive in the third quarter, that they would have put in Mills. There was a lot of people saying that they should have benched Stroud at the half and put in Mills. Frankly, I think you're right. I think CJ Stroud should have been benched at the half. My thing was, it was acceptable that they weren't benching him at half as long as they only gave him one more chance, one more drive. And that might have been their strategy. The thing was, CJ Stroud marches down the field and gets a field goal, so maybe he saved himself and got him the extra finish to the game. But there's a genuine conversation to be had here that if Davis Mills plays the second half of this game, they win. I mean, that's the other thing. This wasn't a blowout. I know it felt like that towards the end once the offense really had no pulse. But there was a chance that Davis Mills could get in there and maybe give you something else. It would have been hard to lower the floor. The floor was pretty low. Stroud's passer rating was below 30, just absolutely atrocious, with the worst pick six I've ever seen in playoff history. Seriously, it's the worst pick six I've ever seen in playoff history. And I guess it falls into so many buckets. The not understanding the throws that you can't make, the not understanding the awareness of the pocket, the refusal to move your legs, the refusal to be accurate, the inability to be accurate, constantly throwing balls that are not catchable or that they're hard to catch, to have that many interceptions without throwing the ball out of bounds, to get that rattled every time you see the blitz. I mean, CJ Stroud was seeing ghosts out there, and I think there's an argument that you could say that this is the worst postseason performance by a quarterback in the history of the NFL, given the fact that he had the number one defense on his side. He had one of the league's best kickers. Special teams is special teams. Besides that, whatever. But yeah, some uncomfortable conversations are going to be had with CJ Stroud. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And honestly, maybe it's a good thing that they're happening before he gets extended, because he is not worth anything close to Purdy. And if that's what him and his agent are demanding, I think you trade him and you say, bye-bye, we will find someone else. It is unacceptable to have that happen. The other thing that makes this so tricky is he never really turned the ball over in the regular season. Sure, he had I think he had 8 interceptions in the regular season, 4 interceptions in a post game, 1 before that, and 5 fumbles. I mean, it is a historic collapse at the quarterback position. And again, the reason why it's so scary is because there's no precedent for this. I can't comfortably tell you that, hey, he might be like Sam Darnold and get better. Sam Darnold was never good. He slowly learned and added on and got better. CJ Stroud was good and then nosedived, and now it's like, well, does he have the mentality? Does he have the mindset to crawl back up? That's essentially what you're betting on. If you decide that CJ Stroud is your franchise quarterback, you are betting that he has the mentality to pull himself out past the mental spot and figure out whatever's going on. The issue I have with that is it's not going to get any easier unless you hit on a new offensive coordinator. I mean, even then, you had the number one defense in the league. Like, your surroundings aren't going to get much better. So that's my CJ Stroud rant, man. A couple other things I'll add about this game. Nick Caley's inability to adjust to what he was seeing was awful. But again, how can I blame Nick Caley when we have 5 turnovers, right? So yes, did I think Nick Caley called the perfect game? No. But if you're screaming, fire Nick Caley, I mean, it doesn't matter. It could have been Sean McVay back there calling in calls, okay? And we're not winning that game with CJ Stroud today, okay? And yeah, the inability to get a run game going was brutal. I did think that, Trent Brown having to go out last minute, having to shuffle the offensive line certainly didn't help in terms of the run game. But man, it's literally impossible to focus on anything else when your quarterback plays like that. It was just laughable how bad CJ Stroud played. Let me check my notes to see if I have anything else to say. I really don't think I do. But yeah, I guess the takeaways are CJ Stroud might not be the guy that the Houston Texans thought he was, and you'd be pretty bold to bet on him, because even if he has a great regular season, that's always going to be in the back of your mind. It's always going to be in the back of his mind that, hey, he might completely F up in the postseason, and no one can take that experience away from him. Like I said, this is unprecedented, uncharted waters. How can you build around a quarterback that might just piss it all away, that already did piss away the best defense? I don't know how you do it. Go get Joe Burrow and send 3 firsts if you can. If you can't, keep CJ Stroud on a short leash next season. Have Davis Mills ready. draft another quarterback or use Graham Mertz. I'm not a fan of him, so draft another quarterback and figure this out, man. It is a catastrophe. It is a catastrophe that the season ended this way. Obviously, you want to play really good, and if they play really good and hit a walk-off field goal on you, game is game. But to beat yourself like that and to give that many chances to the Patriots, who didn't even play cleanly, they didn't even play amazingly, and to just piss away a defensive performance like that, I truly have no words for how pathetic and pitiful that is. And I would not want to be Nick Caserio right now, because he's going to have to make some difficult decisions and have some uncomfortable conversations. Yeah, that's really all I got for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about this whole fiasco. We're going to cover the offseason, though. Got a lot of good offseason content in terms of draft, in terms of mock trades, mock drafts, all of that good stuff. So stay tuned with the channel. That's a wrap for this 2025 to 2026 season, though. I will see you guys in the next one, man. Hopefully it gets better from here. So peace out.